So I think it's finally happening. I believe that I am going to become someone who works on 2 projects simultaneously. Hi everyone, my name is Brittani B.A. Franc, and if you're new here, I'm an indie author, a small business owner with an online bookshop specializing in surprise book dates, and I am also a serial hobby collector. I just absolutely love any kind of crafting hobby, any kind of hobby you can throw my way. I have probably dabbled in it, collected it, loved it, and will be doing it till the end of time. I know that I'm new to this whole YouTube genre of, writers coming on and talking about their processes. So you won't know, but for me, writing 2 projects, like working on 2 projects simultaneously, has never felt like something that would come naturally to me. I am very much a hyper-focusing type of creative where I get into these modes of wanting to do just one thing at a time, and I find it very difficult and overwhelming to kind of juggle multiple creative projects at a time unless they are vastly different from one another. And when it comes to writing, that is like where it shows up the most prominently. So with regards to reading, sometimes you'll see that I have 2 or 3, possibly up to 5 books that I'm reading at a time. And that's when my ADHD is like really off the charts, because I just am feeling I want to read everything all at once. But there's a caveat. Those separate titles are always very different from each other. They're usually spanning different genres. I most likely have a nonfiction thrown in there. And so it feels very easy for my brain to separate between everything. Whereas with writing, it has always felt like I have to put all of my all into one project at a time, which is probably why I have written and published 1 novel. And since publishing A Daisy in Lily's Valley in 2023, I have not come out with any other novel since. That's a long time to not have a completed novel. Now, I have recently just finished the first part of Project Magic, which looks like it is going to become a duology. So technically, I have finished a 2nd novel and I'm working on my 3rd, but it doesn't feel that way because Project Magic is in essence one full story that just happens to be split into 2 books. And so it still feels like it is in limbo. It still feels as if that project is nowhere near being finished. So for me to come here and say, hey, I am about to start on another project, another writing project, feels very weird and very uncomfortable. But I'm also really excited because, like I said, A Daisy in Lily's Valley came out in 2023, and there was a portion of time in which I just didn't write. I really lost my momentum to the trenches of getting that book out there and promoting it and trying to figure out marketing and trying to do all of these different events to find new readers and explain my book, and which is really hard, by the way. Explaining a book in just one short, quick pitch is so challenging when your book is usually a myriad of things. So that took me some time, and I just really fell off the bandwagon of writing, and it took me a really long time with Project Magic to get back into that groove because I had paused, and I didn't realize that there is something called the sophomore slump when it comes to writing your 2nd novel or your 2nd project, and I definitely believe that that is 100% what has happened to me with regards to the 2nd project of mine. But I am hoping to change all of that, to change my luck with regards to, falling into a slump and get started on this next project that is a brand new idea for me. It kind of came out of nowhere. I was just brainstorming, possibly looking into writing a novella. I don't know, something about that just seems like the perfect challenge because I am 100% an overwriter. If my current manuscript was any indication, it's sitting at over 150,000 words with probably another 100,000 to go, possibly more. The whole reason why it is being divided into 2 books. So if that is any indication, I am definitely an overwriter to the max. I really love getting into the meat and the details and setting a scene and feeling all the emotions of a character. And so choosing to write a novella feels like a really good challenge for just expanding my skills. I've always admired writers who are able to say so much with so little. Just in one sentence, if I can feel so many things, that's the kind of writing I want to be able to do, at least sometimes. I think that would be really cool. I'm going to try that with this current project. And so I know the theme of the story that I want to focus on. I know the opening image and I know the closing image, which are two things that are very important for me before I start any project. I kind of need to know where we're starting with the characters and then where we're ending with the characters, because I'm definitely a very character-driven writer. I do employ plot structures, but the plot means less to me than what is happening with my characters internally. Knowing where they're starting and where I want them to end is like the most important part. Everything else in between I can figure out, but if I don't know those two things, then I don't have a story. So I like to keep all of my ideas in this little notebook, and I have these little tabs that kind of indicate what it is that I've written down so that I don't lose it, because I'm notorious for that. I'll write something down and I just will forget what I've written, where I've written it, how to find it. I have I have multiple novella ideas, but the one that's really jumping out to me is actually following a character from A Daisy and Lily's Valley. I was surprised that I wanted to follow them. Not because they're not interesting, it's just I wasn't expecting their story to jump out at me. I'm really excited now to kind of go back in time before the start of A Daisy and Lily's Valley, like several years before, to kind of see how this character became who they are. And so that is what I am doing. I'm going to follow that character. I already know the setting. It's going to be at university. It's going to be very academia vibes. It's going to be primarily during the holidays. It's going to be set in England. So we're getting all of that feeling into it while also tackling this very coming of age, coming into themselves story. There are like the cutest little finches just popping around outside in the garden, and they keep landing on sunflower stalks, and it's so adorable. The sunflowers aren't out yet. Ooh. Oh, it just flitted around. The sunflowers haven't bloomed yet, but I wonder if they're like, hey, this is going to be where I'm snacking. So to start any project, usually I am like a squirrel that gathers like little nuggets of ideas, and I store them away, and I write like the scenes that come to me randomly, and I kind of give it a very organic, natural flow. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, but if I want to write multiple stories at a time, especially because I am getting antsy about the fact that I've been working on Project Magic for over 3 years now, it's been a long time coming, but I have all these other ideas percolating, and if I don't want it to take 3 years or more, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, to actually write these stories, I need a little bit more structure. I don't believe that I'm a plotter, but I'm also not a pantser. I'm like right in between. I need a little bit of structure to kind of go by, and then I really want to discover a story along the way. What I decided to do was I downloaded a couple of beat sheets. So one of them came from my editor, which is the Save the Cat beat sheet that she sent me, and I love that she sent this to me. This is for novel length stories, so something between 80 to 100,000 words, which is not what I'm going for. I'm going for like somewhere between 40 and 50,000 words. However, I think that I could alter this in order to get it to fit the novella length. And so I will be referencing this a little bit. I do remember that I read Save the Cat before my first novel came out, and I did kind of loosely use the beat sheets from that, but it felt very restrictive, and I didn't feel like my novel actually followed the beats of the Save the Cat. And so I veered off course. I think it just was a little bit of an outlier, which is great. I think that all beat sheets are kind of a template, a tool in which to guide you at the beginning, but you can kind of take off and do what you want with them as long as your story keeps the reader engaged and is interesting and has some sort of overarching theme that you can use as a touch point. I believe that we don't have to follow, a very rigorous outline, but I was bopping around on the internet and looking at different plot devices, or not even plot devices, at different beat sheets and so I happened upon this website by by Jamie Gold. So Jamie Gold's website had a bunch of different beat sheets, and I was looking through all of them because they had like romance beat sheets, they had the Save the Cat beat sheet, they had a bunch of different ones. And the ones that actually stuck out most to me was one by Michael Haig, and it's called The 6-Stage Plot Structure for a Character's Internal Journey, which, I mean, that's perfect. All of my books are very character driven. And so I was like, yes, this is what I want. So what's great about this is that this Excel spreadsheet is that you can input the word count and it updates everything based on what your targeted word count is. So for me, I put in 50,000 words just because I am an overwriter and I don't believe that I'm going to hit 40,000. To start. I think I can cut it down, but I don't think I'll get to 40,000. And so I put in 50,000 and it updated the page count. It told me that my page count would be around 182 pages, which is actually what I was aiming for, somewhere between 182 and like 210 pages. And then it breaks down each act and stage into the approximate page number and word count, which I think is really great. It is very structured in a sense, but when you're first starting out, it's kind of nice to have an idea of what the goal is, because I am not a full pantser. I need a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel to see by and to be going towards. And so having that initial, especially for the first couple of chapters where I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it is that I'm trying to say or the voice of the story, it's nice to have little goalposts that you can celebrate, because you feel so lost, or at least I do when I'm writing. I feel so lost at the beginning. I'm like, does this even work? What's the story I'm trying to tell? Is anybody going to care? I really like that. In Act 1, in the description, it states, introduce protagonists and create empathy. They start out fully in their identity, but throughout this act, they'll face an opportunity and readers will glimpse their essence. And I mean, that's just wild, because that's exactly what I'm trying to tell with this story. I literally named the story Project Truth for right now. And the whole premise of the story is that my main character is living in this identity that they show to the world for various reasons, but it's not their true selves, and they're really trying to figure out how to embrace that inner essence of themselves and show the world in a very in a safe way. And they are straddling this line and this big decision to either go back to their preconceived identity or step into who they know that they are deep in their heart. And so I just love that this is basically the exact structure or the exact definition of what it is I'm trying to do with this story. I do plan on working on this on the weekends when I have time. And so I'm going to get started today. It would have been yesterday, but I had an 8-hour sneezing allergy fit, which rendered me useless. All I could do was download the beat sheet and then do nothing with it. So that's what I'm going to do today. It is currently June 7th. I have no idea how long this is going to take me to do. I do plan on writing maybe like between 500 and 1,000 is my current goal post, but I'm not really strict with word counts. I just kind of go by how I feel. And so if that's the case, then if this is indeed going to be a 50,000 word project, I'm looking at probably about 6 months of writing this, but that could change because Project Magic will eventually be done. Maybe. Then I'll have a lot more time to dive into Project Truth. But for today, I'm going to go into a cooler room because, oh my gosh, it is so warm all of a sudden. The beginning of June was so weird. It was 55 degrees out every morning. We were sleeping with the windows open, and now it's a balmy 85, expected to be in the 90s soon. And I am not here for it. I hate it. I'm going to go to a cooler room to my office where it's nice and dark and chilly. And I'm going to try and write out some of these beats. I'm going to see if I can figure out some scenes that can go and connect me from beginning to middle to end for this particular project. And yeah, I am so excited, and I'm super excited to take you along with me. This is the first time that I am documenting a project from start to finish. So this might be one video. This might wind up being 50 videos. Who knows? I'm learning, you're learning, we're all learning. We're in it for the ride. So let's get going. I spent maybe the last hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours going through the Michael Haig's 6-stage plot structure from the website that I mentioned earlier. And oh my gosh, I have such a good understanding of where this story is going to be. And I'm actually legitimately so excited to dive into it. It took a minute because there was a lot of things that I needed to get down, but it's just really exciting to see what's happening because this is, like I said before, a character from A Daisy and Lily's Valley that's getting their own little like backstory novella, kind of explaining a little bit more about how they became the way that they are when we meet them. And there's so many parallels that I knew I set up in A Daisy and Lily's Valley, but I didn't get to explore them very deeply. And so as I was writing all of these ideas down, I just kept seeing more and more of the parallels coming out. I am so excited to kind of lean on that because I think that while this novel will be able to stand alone, all of my novels, I want to be able to stand in their own right so that you can really enjoy yourself with the characters and see the world through their eyes. But for those who do want to read all of them together, they are set in the same world. And I just think it lends a lot more depth that one book just isn't able to give characters a lot of the time. So that's where I'm super excited. Like my heart's racing. I'm so tickled. This is so exciting. And I feel like there's going to be a lot more depth than I realized going into this. And I knew that there was going to be depth, but this is the start of every project. I'm always worried I'm not going to find the words, even though time and time again, I should realize, Brittany, that, hey, you always find the words. In fact, you find too many of the words. So that is another fear that is kind of coming up. It's a little glimpse right now, glimmer, that I'm going to actually wind up writing a full-on novel when I was only going for novella length. We're going to see. We're going to see how this works, how it goes, but I'm just so excited, and I'm so glad that this structure is helping me to kind of figure out the order in which things should happen and how to progress the story. And even between the points, because it's a very loose structure, I was already coming up with ideas of like, oh, this should happen between point A and point B, and then this should happen over here, and we need to see this character doing this thing. And so that's always a good sign. That's always a good sign when you are beginning a project, if ideas are just coming to you very readily, that you have enough to work with. It's always when there's not enough ideas that I'm like, ooh, I think that this idea or the story that I want to tell needs to sit for a little bit longer to percolate, just so that by the time I do go to write, I actually have more fodder to work with. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I'm not saying that like if you're struggling with coming up with ideas, that means that your initial like big idea is not good enough. It's just that it might need to sit longer, which I've had that. That happened with Project Magic. It needed to sit for a long ass time, like so long. And now it's good. Now I have too many ideas and I need to cut back on some. Anyway, I am super excited where this is going. It is the end of Sunday, so I'm going to wrap this up for now. This is going to be a fun one. This is going to be a fun project, I think. Yeah.